Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm ACated and this is my build. This is the second Enchanted by Nature build that I'm doing. The first one I did, which was the last video, was a fairy cottage kind of thing. I feel like a lot of people are going to be making these fairy cottages, and of course that's what the pack's for. Like most of the objects are for some sort of fairy cottage type build. But I wanted to do something a little different from that, especially since I've been doing a lot of little cottagey type builds. And by a lot, I mean like 4 or something. But anyways, I decided to do a different take on fairies. So instead of little cottagey nook in the forest or something, I decided to do more like a ancient garden or something. So I was kind of inspired by greco-roman architecture and European gardens. So the whole point of this is kind of to be like a fey sanctuary or garden, like a hidden temple or something. Like you would find this in the Roman Empire or ancient Greece or something. And then you can have like some sort of fey live here, like a satyr or a centaur or any other Greco-Roman whatevers just running around. I don't know, or just a normal fairy could live here too. With this one, I wasn't really thinking about any type of sim that would live here. I was just more thinking about the build itself and what I was going for. I guess that's the same with a few other builds, like the last one. I don't really have any specific sim in mind, more just a general sim that could use stuff from the pack. Anyways, with this one, I was trying to be creative, trying to branch out and do something a little bit more different from the typical fairy cottage, as I already mentioned. I was kind of inspired by the Greco-Roman temples and all those sorts of architecture, but for this one, I wasn't trying to make it a temple or more just vaguely inspired by that, but still trying to make it into like a house or something, not like a place of worship. So I guess it could be like someone's villa or something that's in the woods. So for this build, I was trying to do minimal packs, and I did end up doing minimal packs, although I used more packs than I really wanted to. I was going to use Enchanted by Nature and then Realm of Magic, since Realm of Magic had the pillars that I was going to use, and I was thinking, okay, well I might as well just use that. But then I realized I kind of needed Get Together and then Romantic Garden to sort of get the entire gardeny vibe that I was going for. So Get Together has a lot of the stone wallpapers and the flooring, and then some of those more stone gardeny type objects, sort of like a European garden, which makes sense because it's a European pack kind of thing. And then romantic garden stuff should be pretty obvious since it's a romantic garden and this is supposed to be a garden. Although it's not very romantic, I guess it could be romantic, and it could be romantic in terms of Roman instead of romance, but I don't know. I made 2 buildings in the house, so there's the lower building, which is the larger building, and then there's a higher building, which is behind the pond thing. I'm not really sure what it is, but you can swim in it. Anyway, so I ended up putting a bar in the smaller building, and then the house, like the main house, is the bigger building. I was initially going to put a kitchen in the higher building, but I ended up just putting a bar because it didn't really work as I wanted it to. I mean, it still has some kitchen stuff, like there's a bar, there's I think a fridge and a sink, but that's kind of it. I mean, if a fairy is going to live here, I don't think they really need a kitchen because I don't think they need to eat. But since there is no kitchen, I don't think a normal sim could live here because I'm pretty sure normal sims need to eat. This is kind of a small lot, so you kind of probably just have 1 sim live here, maybe 2 sims, like maybe a couple, like a fairy couple maybe. Not a normal sim couple because there's no kitchen so they can't eat, so they might starve to death, but that's okay. I mean, sims dying is not okay, but like they don't really die for real, like they just become ghosts, and then you can just easily revive them if you want to. But anyways, it's a rather small build, so there's only 1 bed, and it's a double bed, so you could have either 1 sim living here, or a couple sim. Fairy sim, probably a fairy couple. I already said that, but I think you get the point. So the house has a bedroom, of course, and then it has some bookshelves in that too. And then in the living room, there is a sofa, and then a few other chairs, and then there's also a desk for any of your desk needs, I guess, although there's no computer, so if you want a computer, I guess you can add it yourself. I feel like this place wouldn't really have technology. I feel like this is the type of place where if you brought technology into it, it would just not work. Kind of like Hogwarts, but more fairy-like. And then of course there's also the bar, which I mentioned, which I think has the fridge and sink. Otherwise, I moved the fridge and sink into the main house, but I don't think it matters that much. You can't really prepare any food because there's no counters. If you wanted to add counters, I guess you could add them. I don't think the bar counts as counters, so if you don't have any counters, you can't prepare food, so I guess you can only just get like quick meals from the fridge. Also, there's no toilet. There is a toilet, so I added one in the corner, but there's no dedicated bathroom, so you kind of just have to use nature, which I guess goes well with the nature pack because it's the Enchanted by Nature, and there's like the whole living off the land stuff, so I guess you just live off the land. It's less of a house and more of just an open air shelter sanctuary thing that you just sort of reside in, but then you don't really use it for that much stuff. You just still live off the land. I think it's an interesting thing, and I feel like a fairy would definitely live here. I look at all the fairy houses, and I'm thinking like, oh yeah, fairies would live here. Like they're really cool, and they look very whimsical and stuff. But I feel like realistically, as if fairies were realistic, fairies wouldn't really live in a house or like a cottage. I feel like they would more live in like just in nature. Of course, there's the fairy house object, but of course you can just put that in the nature and then they can fulfill all their needs in there and then you're done. So they don't really need a whole house, do they? I'm just trying to justify me not putting all the house amenities in this build, so don't worry, I'm pretty sure the fairy houses are still cool and I still like them and I'm still going to build some. I just like this build too, and I think they're fun different perspectives on the same concept, which is fairies. I added a glass roof to the main house, not for the entire thing, but for like the little side rooms I added a glass roof. I think it looks pretty cool. It feels very immersive in nature. Like you feel very immersed in nature when you live there because you can see the nature just from every point of the room because there's just windows and archways and it's all open air and there's glass roofs and all that stuff. I was trying to play around with the garden stuff, so there's not like that many flowers and stuff, but there's lots of shrubbery and lots of greenery, and there's also lots of different tiles and floor patterns and stuff, which I think is very Greco-Roman to me. I say Greco-Roman and not Roman or Greek just because I feel like I can't really distinguish them that much in this build, so I'm just saying Greco-Roman as like a general term for that style, which I'm sure everyone has some form of idea of what that style is. I also added a lot of planters and stuff to this build so then you could also grow things and grow plants and fruits and stuff, so you can still grow stuff and even eat food maybe, because I guess if you have your Sims live here they can grow the food themselves. I guess if they're okay with just eating raw produce or something. You could also use this build not just as a house, but probably as like a community lot as well, like a park or something, or you can even use it as some other community lot. I don't know, you can just be creative with this. Just use this as like a template for your creativity or whatever. I always love it when people use my builds, although I never get to see what they use them for, so I never get to see if they change it up a bit, or if they get inspired and they do something else, or if they use my build and do something really creative with it. I don't know, I never really get to see that. If you end up using one of my builds, feel free to comment down below what you do with it, because I would be happy to hear about that. So for the inside, I was kind of going for a more whimsical style than the sort of Greco-Roman thing that I had on the outside, because I feel like the furniture on the inside would look a little bit more Mediterranean-esque if it were really Greco-Roman, or even just more fancy than this. So I'm going very fairy core and very whimsical with all the different like curving wood styles and all the plants and stuff, but it still feels very on theme because it's all white and light colors and looks really pretty and I guess very graceful and delicate. I used a lot of the houseplants that came with the new pack, and especially I used the specific pot that's very ornate, more ornate than the other ones, so it has a little bit more detail. I used that a lot more and then I put a bunch of different plants in it, and I think it looks really cool. Side note, I say I think it looks really cool quite a bit, and I feel like that's implied because if I think it doesn't look cool then I wouldn't have placed it down. Or maybe not, I don't know. I also say maybe not, I don't know a lot. Maybe not, I don't know. Anyways, I quite like the new houseplants. I like how you can put them in different pots, and I like the variety of houseplants there are, but I haven't really used them in gameplay. I've just been using them in builds, and I think they look really cool in builds, but I don't know how they work in gameplay, so I'll have to check that out myself before I say if they're really good or really bad or not. But just on the build mode part of it, I think they're pretty cool. I wasn't exactly sure what to put on the little main area of the house, like the little middle part. So I added like a little fountain there and then some benches and plants and stuff. And then I also added a bunch of planters there if you wanted to use it for that. And then at this point, I'm kind of just adding a few more decorations around, kind of just finalizing the build, which this build actually didn't really take that long, so that's why this video is kind of short. I guess just, it's not exactly short, but it's a lot shorter than the other videos I've done. I added the little ancient ruin objects from Get Together because I thought they looked really well with the build and they made it feel a lot more ancient and ethereal and stuff and made it look more like this place used to be ruined or is a lot older than it looks. I'm not really sure what it implies, but I think it adds a lot more character to the place. A lot more character. I did end up putting a refrigerator and a sink in the bar little area, which I think you could see on screen over there. But yeah, I did end up putting that there. I really like this whole greco-roman sort of open air house concept. So if you want to see something like this again, just feel free to comment that or just let me know. And I would be happy to do something like this again because I thought it was pretty cool and I might want to do something similar again in the future. Then I'm just sort of adding a lot of different trees and stuff around to make it feel a lot more naturey, more whimsical, and more covered in trees, which it is. I also realized that I forgot to add like a little closet, so I was looking for a place to put the closet, and eventually I ended up putting it outside. So I guess your Sims are gonna just have to change outside if they want to change. I guess this house really is for fairies. There's no bathroom, there's no shower, there's no kitchen, there's missing a lot of stuff that normal Sims need. Anyways, we're nearing the end of the speed build, so be sure to check out the showcase at the end. Alright, see you there. Alright, so here's the final build, and this is the showcase. So this is not really the front, although it kind of is the front, and maybe I should have made this the front, but whatever. So this is where I eventually ended up putting the closet. It's right here. It's not really a closet, it's more of just like a hanger for all your clothes, I guess. And then some chairs here for absolutely no reason. And then in here is the little main area, and you can actually look up here and you can see the lights and all the weird window placement. In here is the living room slash office, I guess, but it's just the couch, some more chairs, and then the little coffee table and the desk if you want to do any of your very desk work, I guess. In here is the bedroom with these fancy looking curtain bed things, some fancy looking curtains, and then this little bookshelf. And what I kind of like about this bookshelf is that it kind of looks like fairy wings. Like the trees kind of bend in a certain way where it looks like fairy wings, and then the bookshelf in the center is the fairy itself, or I guess even a butterfly. I think it looks kind of interesting. And then some seats, and then a bookshelf, and you could just sit here and read your little fairy books while looking up at all the nature. And then when you walk out here, there's this little step area, and you step down here from this, I guess, porch, terrace, something. I don't know. There's little statues here, kind of cool. And then you can do a little stim, a little stem, a little stem. You can do a little swim in the pool. And then around here, around the back, there's just this little sitting area, and there's a fountain, and I just sort of put it. Oh, okay. I sort of phase it into the wall here, or I guess the foundation. Oh, don't fall down there. I sort of phased it into the foundation, so then it looks like it's sort of like a half fountain, even though it's not a half fountain, it's a full fountain that I turned into a half fountain. But we're just gonna pretend it's a half fountain. Over here's some bird baths. I don't know if you can actually use this. I think you might be able to. It would be cool if you can use the bird bath to have your fairy sim go in and like refill their hygiene need or something. And if they can't do that, then here's a fairy house where they can refill all their needs. And then once you go up here is this little table and this little balcony thing here. I guess it's a terrace. Is it a terrace or is it a balcony? Or is it a porch? I don't know. I don't know these terminologies. Little bench area. And then in here, there's the bar, sink, and a refrigerator for some reason. And there's a lovely view of the main house. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the build. I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's pretty unique. It's a pretty unique take on fairies. Hopefully it's unique. Maybe there's just a ton of people doing the same thing. But in any case, I think it's pretty cool and looks kind of cool. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like this build and go download it. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment and do all that fun YouTube stuff. And of course, when you comment, be sure to comment down below what you think about the build. If you want to suggest anything, if you use any of my builds and want to talk about what you did with them, I'd love to hear it. And yeah, and with that, I think I'll end the video here. Alright, hope to see you in the next video. Hope you watch my other ones if you haven't already, and I'll see you later. Bye!